There is nothing more tedious in gardening than having to tie plants down to supports. Luckily, you don't have to. Last season, I shared with you my preferred method of staking tomatoes, and while it worked wonderfully during most of the growing season, by the end of harvest time it was falling apart. I'm here to share with you a new and improved design that holds up to the weather and won't break the bank. I'm Siloé Oliveira, and I'm always in search of better methods of producing food naturally and effortlessly. Follow my journey towards sustainability in my suburban homestead. You have previously watched my family help me plant out this Hugel-inspired bed for its second season. Due to my precipitated action in uncovering the soil and later neglect in leaving it uncovered, they had to battle unruly weeds that took the opportunity to thrive and prosper. While it was tough work, they got it done. In my earlier neglect, I had waited too long to plant tomatoes I had raised indoors. I was worried they wouldn't make it. But in only a few weeks, with the proper addition of grass clippings as mulch, the plants couldn't be healthier. Besides tomatoes, we interplanted zinnia and amaranth and marigolds to increase biodiversity. Everything was growing at full speed. I was surprised since this part of the yard in a good day will get only 5 hours or so of direct sun due to the large trees that shade most of the sun's arc. Soon enough, the tomatoes were in dire need for supports. They stood at knee height. They would flop into the ground and produce poorly if I were to do nothing. So I bought 3/4 inch metal electrical conduit in 10-foot lengths. They are relatively cheap and sturdy rods that will last a lifetime out in the weather. My nephew Nathan had to be fully involved in doing this. Even if it turned out less than productive, he was having a blast helping out. Using a hacksaw, I went about cutting each 10-foot piece into a smaller 3-foot 4-inch piece and a larger 6-foot 8-inch piece. It doesn't have to be super exact. Now I could use a pipe cutter and make the process simpler and safer, but I didn't have one laying around, so hacksaw it is. It looks less productive than it actually was. The main problem with my previous design was that it used wood stakes as support. They rotted by the end of the season, making the whole structure still laden with ripened fruit crumble into itself. I could have used pressure-treated wood and thus get to a second season with luck, but the potential chemicals in the wood and the fact that I would still have to replace it at some point made me choose metal. To make the support for one bed, you need 6 pieces of roughly 6 feet. That means I only needed 4 10-foot pieces. I connect the 3-foot pieces I cut together to produce 2 new pieces. I joined them by using a connector that is also available in hardware stores. All you need to do is screw them together. Of course, my nephew wouldn't let me do it without trying out first. He is fascinated by mechanical things, and he does know his way with a screwdriver. It just turns out that these screws are a bit harder to turn, and the round pipe makes the whole piece rather unstable. I jumped in to help him accomplish the feat. It is really important to get kids involved in solving problems, providing guidance as needed. Situations that prove to be a bit tougher than expected turn out to be great lessons on dealing with frustration and overcoming obstacles, something we all need to learn. You need to drill holes into the conduit in order to fasten the garden mesh. Make 3 holes 18 inches apart, starting flush to one end, thus having the third hole right in the middle of the conduit. The hole should be large enough to allow garden twine to be threaded through. Drilling holes in a round, slippery pipe can be rather tricky. This is not a task for children. Once you drill the hole, you want to take out any burr left to avoid cuts. You should use a metal file, but I'm using a hacksaw out of laziness. Get some pieces of twine and your metal supports and head to your tomato bed. Drive the metal tubes into the ground. Remember to have the end that has the drilled hole on top. I have made a mistake of burying the wrong end, so it's important not to overlook this. If you have soil that is soft enough and stone-free, you should be able to simply push the pipes into the ground by using your body weight. Alternatively, you can use a tool to drive them in. Ideally, they should be buried about 18 inches into the ground, which means the first layer of mesh would be about 18 inches from the ground, and that's the halfway point in the pipes. I put one conduit at each corner and two in the middle of this rectangular bed. Thread the sisal twine through the holes in the pipe. Tie the corner of the mesh to it. I'm reusing the same plastic garden mesh I used last year. This material will last for several seasons as it is UV stabilized. You want mesh with large holes. This one has 2-inch holes. I would rather find an alternative that is not plastic, but this is made from recycled plastic and will last a good amount of years, so for now it will do. Gently drape the first layer over your plants. Thread them through the pipes and tie them at the drilled holes. While plastic zip ties would do a great job, I don't like to use single-use plastic. However, there are reusable zip ties out there. They could be good. I'm using 3 layers of plastic mesh. You could install them as your plants grow to give them more sunlight, or put them up all together. You could even do taller supports using the full length of 10 feet, but you would need a ladder for that. The best thing about the support is that it is self-trellising. As the tomatoes grow through the mesh, they will effectively tie themselves to the structure so that the fruit will grow far from the ground, diminishing pests and disease damage and allowing more sun to aid in the ripening of the fruit. In just a few weeks, the tomatoes had already gotten to the second layer and were already setting fruit, and I had basically neglected the bed. While this system is not the prettiest thing out there, it works wonderfully. Try it out, you won't regret it. Join me next time for another garden adventure. Remember to send your questions and comments to seedofchoice@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to Suburban Homestead.